As is customary, we'll start with our ginger shots.
Not vitamin D this week.
No, there's enough sun coming out. Spring has.
Oh, it's lovely weather today.
Can you two actually down it this time? Not sip
I did
it.
last time.
Come on, mate.
Right.
Go on then, Rob.
That's the toxic
Good lad.
drinking culture we don't need. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, yes, he's opened the gullet.
Oh, not the first time this morning.
Oh my god!
Do you do that on purpose? You do that on purpose, do you?
That's every time to make you laugh. So we're in April. The sun is out. Spring is on its way. How are we feeling, guys? Rob, how are you? I know you've had 2 very successful weeks of competing in jiu-jitsu. You happy?
Yeah, I'm happy.
You've been working hard on that.
I have been working hard. Yeah, I built it up in my mind a lot to the point of
That's hot.
spending. I mean, before the first competition, I haven't competed for about a year. I was feeling really anxious, like really, really anxious. But it was very much like in my head, I was kind of like able to rationalize it. It was like, it's not a big deal, don't worry. But in my body, it was churning. I felt sick in the week leading up to it. But then as soon as I was in the room, the competition room, I was fine. Which is often the way it is with me. And then in the second competition, which was just the week after, I was able to not have really any nerves going in at all because
Arrogant.
it was because it was just like because I'd just done it the week before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good.
What do you get nervous about?
I think because I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to win.
Do you hate losing?
I don't like it. I mean, but
I
the thing is,
fucking hate it,
at
man.
the time, like in the first competition, I won all my matches, which was great. But in the second competition, I lost twice. So, but in the moment, I'm not really bothered about it. Like if they beat me fair and square, like then that's fine. But afterwards, I am a bit like, fuck, I missed that detail or something. But then it's just something to work on. It's all part of the process. Like the improvement that I make leading up to a competition is massive. And then always on the day, I do make some silly errors because the adrenaline is high. But you always come away with like, right, there are 2 or 3 things I really could do with cementing in my game. And that's going to help me a lot. So yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling good after that.
The two of you, I believe, have started working together. Is that right? On a fitness level.
We have, yeah. So
Are you all right to talk about that?
yeah, of course I am all right to talk about it. Yeah, I'm still recovering from the ginger shot coming out my nose, actually, if I'm honest with you. But no, I asked Rob, basically, I've gone to the gym every day since I got sober, pretty much, like when I first got sober. But I'm not into anything, like when I go to the gym, I don't have any targets. I'm not particularly into like building a certain physique or anything like that. I go more for my head. But in order for it to be good for my head in the way that I want it to be, I need to train hard. You need to sort of be training hard. That's what works for me, right? And I just realized massively that I was going through the motions in the gym. And more importantly, my relationship with food had got pretty out of hand. And I knew I needed some sort of focus. So, yeah, I thought, I know a guy. And contacted Rob. And honestly, it's been even better than I thought it could be.
Nice.
I'm not just saying that because you're my mate.
Well, good. That's good to hear. We've started off very simple, haven't we?
Yeah.
Often it's those things that it's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
Like with the food thing, the way we started was just very simple. You're going to send me a picture of everything that you consume for a week, right?
Yeah.
And what that does is it just creates awareness. Like already you were eating healthier, right? We caught up the other day and you were like, yeah, it's already a lot better, a lot more in check. And that's with zero nutrition advice. And you'll know this from being a nutritionist. Just building awareness and being conscious about what we're eating, suddenly you have way better choices.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things that's important is that like I sort of know what's good for me and what's not.
Yeah.
My problem is when I get in a rut. And like I was saying to Mark earlier, I'm an addict, right? So like I get fully addicted to stuff, man. And I think, honestly, sugar and sugar being like, we get mugged off with sugar. It's a fucking major like killer drug. highly addictive as any other drug out there, and it's marketed to kids from the day they're born to get them hooked on this sugar. And like, I have to go quite abstinent from sugar to get off of it. And the lies that we tell ourselves, you know, we sort of tell ourselves that, oh, you're gonna have to have some sort of treat. You need to be able to enjoy yourself a little bit. You know what? Genuinely, and it's easy for me to say this when I'm in this place, but feeling how I feel now, I'm more energized. I've got more energy to do stuff with the kids. I've got more energy. I feel better in myself. I don't feel in a rut. Like, this is way more enjoyable than any sort of pudding or sweet food could give me in the moment. It's a fucking illusion. Yeah. Like, it's a myth, man. It's a myth that it's a treat to have a bit of sugar here and there. The real treat, man, I think, is to do what I'm doing now. Does that make sense?
Definitely, yeah. I'm the same. Like, when people get sugars and carbohydrates kind of like muddled up a little bit, because you've got certain carbohydrates which are a longer chain, so they take longer to break down in the body. They don't spike your blood sugar levels as much, and those I find really great for me. Like, I need carbohydrates to fuel me. I feel better when I'm having things like that. But when I'm having lots of simple sugars, like, that's when I do feel like just my energy levels are up and down. Even in my head, I just don't feel as good.
Yeah.
What do you find with that?
The trouble is added sugars. So if you look on a label of foods, you'll have carbohydrates, which are sugar when you break it down in the body, but added sugar is the stuff they just add in to make it palatable, to make it delicious, that you want to eat more and more. And that's where the problem is. I don't think necessarily sugar itself, but the stuff you're kind of talking about is the added sugar that, you know, ice cream or chocolate, that is makes stuff delicious. I'm probably a bit more like, I don't eat it as often, but I actually am falling in the camp of I'll have a little treat quite often and then a bit more of a binge. And then, so for instance, I've just signed up for a jiu-jitsu competition, and almost overnight my focus has switched to clean up my diet a bit, train a bit harder again. And so it just comes down to that mindset for me. But I had years of like, I wouldn't eat a crisp or chocolate and those sorts of very restricted stuff. And so I've kind of...
Was that during the CrossFit days?
Yeah, even like, basically when I was 16, 17, I had a lot of like puppy fat basically. But I just took it upon myself for whatever reason at 16. I was like, right, I just need to cut out. But the things I cut out were crisps and biscuits. I was just like, I'm not going to eat those. And I didn't have a crisp. I used to love crisps. I still love crisps. Until I went to uni, which was 3 years later, I didn't have any crisps, which was like just an example of the sort of... that was probably a bit extreme. But for me, I'm the same as you. Sometimes I need a bit of like complete abstinence to just like reset it and then like kind of loosen the buckle a little bit on myself. But...
And when you look at like refined, when I say refined sugar, yeah, I just mean like what you're talking about, that added stuff, right? Not like the stuff that breaks down in your body in carbs. I'm talking like just fucking chocolate, ice cream, that kind of stuff, yeah. Like when you're like me, which is anything that makes me feel good, I can get hooked on and addicted to, yeah. That's the stuff. Like, I don't drink alcohol, right? And people that know me know why I don't drink alcohol, and no one ever says, oh yeah, but you need to be... You know, surely you could do with having a drink here and there, right? What's life going to be like? I'm a bit like that with that refined sugar stuff. And you like, you know, so when people say, oh, you know, you've got to have one here and there, in some ways I'm like, I don't think I do. Like, I can't tell you the place I get into when I'm overeating. So I starve myself in the day because of the shame of the night before and what I've done, right? And I wake up and I promise you, it's the first thing I think about when I wake up is like, you're a fat mess who can't control yourself when you eat, right? And I feel shit about it all day. So then I starve myself all day. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm disgusted with what I see. And it's nothing to do with what I see. Let me be clear about that, yeah? It's about how I feel. So what I see is bad. And then I binge in the evening. And I'm honestly, the place that I get to internally in my mind is not too dissimilar to the place I found myself in with the drinking and why I stopped the drinking. It's the same thing, it's the same cycles, and it's the exact same addiction place that I get myself to.
Can I ask you though, when you say I'm an addict and you say sugar is it's the same. I have the same relationship as I do with alcohol. Is there not a way though that you can allow yourself on occasion, and obviously you need to think about what those occasions are and what the boundaries are, but to have those without it kicking off a binge? Do you think there's a world in which you can get to that place?
I do think there is. Yeah, I do think there is. But I get asked the same question about alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And my answer with alcohol is, why would I risk it?
Yeah, I think that the difference though is what you might do at the end of a binge on alcohol is very different to what you might do after a binge of sugar.
Yeah. So there is, right? There is. My problem is, or the thing that I always weigh up in my mind is the risk still worth it, right? Because if I always find myself back where I was last week, it ain't a good place for me. It's not, like, make no mistake, I'm not over hyping how bad I feel in my head when I'm in that cycle of eating, right? I'm not, it's a bad place. And so the fact that that's where I always end up back there, right? And then I look at how and reflect on how I feel now when I'm not eating sugar, like in this headspace that I'm in now, it would be ridiculous for me to even have a pudding.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will hear this and think, yeah, but that's restricting. You're not allowing yourself to have it. The only times in the last, particularly 4 or 5 days since I've like gone completely abstinent from it, that I've thought about, nice bit of chocolate would be nice now, is when I'm at home on my own and nobody's there and I'm in my body, in my feelings, and I want to escape, right? There hasn't been a moment yet where I've just thought, you know what, from a pure taste and feeling good perspective, a nice bit of pudding will be all right. And that's where I think, when I look at last year and I had a long run of having a good relationship with food, I was having desserts here and there then, but it was only when, if we went out for dinner and it was 3 courses after we'd been here or whatever, do you know what I mean? And there was and I just had a bit of a sweet or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all right. But
I resonate with what you're saying though, in terms of like, does it actually make me feel better after I've eaten it? Like, you know, on your food diary, you've got things like, you know, you have some strawberries or berries with a bit of Greek yogurt or something. Now you still get that kind of, it's obviously not the same as like a triple chocolate fudge cake or whatever, but you're still having like that, some sugar, albeit from natural sources, and also, you know, mixed in, it feels a bit like a pudding. I feel so much better after I've had that than if I've had a massive slice of cake.
And when
that first bite, when you have the cake, oh, it's amazing.
What is amazing about it?
But what is, sorry?
What's amazing about it?
It's the combination of, like, you know, obviously they're designed in a way, it's that sugar, it's that fat, it's the...
Just gives you a bit of a high, yeah?
Yeah, it gives you...
So does crack.
Yeah.
Genuine, but I'm serious.
Yeah, no.
So why don't you have a bit of crack every now and then?
No.
But it does.
But
no, but do you understand why I'm saying that?
Yeah.
Do you understand why I'm saying that?
It's all, you're playing the dopamine game, right? You're playing the dopamine game. It's like, you know that if you have that hit of dopamine, you're going to take a dip afterwards. And
So-
then you're prepared to make that trade-off.
And that's my point.
The crack trade-off is a little bit more extreme than the chocolate fudge
What's
cake.
more extreme about it?
Because your high is so much higher and your low is so much lower.
Yeah,
That's the more extreme thing.
Yeah. But the thing is still the same. The only reason, or can you give me any other reasons? Maybe you can, Mark, I don't know, but of why a cake is better than a bit of yogurt, which I love, with loads of strawberries and stuff like
In
that.
terms of when you taste it.
Yeah, why? What's better about having a bit of cake? Why would I have cake over the strawberry stuff? What is it about it?
I'm not saying that I'm not recommending that. I'm not.
No.
saying you
But I'm
should.
asking you, what's better? Because, you know, everybody says that the common
taste,
argument is, and you said it yourself, couldn't you get to a place where you could enjoy a pudding now and then?
Yeah.
So what is it about the pudding that would make me think to myself, I've got to get to a place where I can have one?
Okay, well, take a cake, for example. Like, a cake, traditionally, you have at a celebration. And also, it's the same thing which you're cutting off and you're sharing. So there is a ceremonial aspect to it, that you're all having the piece of cake. Someone's put love and effort into the cake. So you're all commenting, oh, that's lovely cake, even if it's not. Like, you're, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a community connection thing to it. There's also the idea that you're all, we know this isn't the best food for us, but we're allowing ourselves a moment of just not worrying about that and celebrating and being carefree. So I think there is it's very different than if you all had a spoonful of fruit and a dollop of yogurt. It feels to me like a different thing.
Could you say the same about alcohol? Traditionally, everybody shares a beer.
yeah, but-
It would feel very different if you all
for
had
sure.
a can of Coke.
It would do. It does. It 100% does. And what is it about the fact that it is just a little bit indulgent? We kind of know that, okay, for a moment, we're going to not worry about whether it enhances our health or not for a moment. And we're just going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy life. Like that's what you kind of allow yourself in the moment. But if you do that too regularly, if you do it too much, then your actual net enjoyment goes down, right?
Nutrition is such like a complicated topic, right? I actually did a post recently which I reflected on and thought, well, that's actually, I did the post. It was I have this idea about inclusive eating, which is what you're talking about of, oh well, you should still have a little treat now and then because that's good and healthy for your mind and stuff. But actually, after I posted it, I was like, I can post that because I'm in a position where I have the experience, or I'm in that position to think I can enjoy something. But actually, someone like yourself, to say that to you could be quite damaging, because I'm like, just have a little bit of chocolate each night or every so often. And then next thing you know, that kind of can spiral. And you said something at the start where you know the things that are good for you. I think most people know the foods and exercises and stuff that are good for you, but it's more about the mindset and individuality of it. And that's why it's always going to be a topic of like complication for people until, I don't know where, like obviously knowledge and understanding plays a role in it, but actually having someone to guide you that's like got some good intentions for you as well.
I agree though. I think though you need those times where you can tell yourself, oh, I don't need this to relax in the evening.
That's a
whether it's
really good
booze,
point.
whether it's chocolate, whatever it is, because we all have our default state that we're in. And our default eating habits, our habitual eating habits, our habitual sleeping habits, movement habits. And so when people go into a period where they're more structured and they're more focused, what it's doing is it's shifting your default, your sort of standards that you have for yourself. You're slightly shifting it. So if you have a period where you're not having any of this simple sugars, right? Throughout that time, you're going to then realize, okay, you're going to come up with all these tactics of when I do have a craving, what do you have? And then even if you do allow yourself, you'll probably at least be slightly in a better position.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like, I joke about crack, but if I bring cocaine, for example, right?
Yeah.
You've all got mates that do a bit of cocaine every now and then on the weekend.
I've done it before.
Yeah, but you can think of your mates that do it on the weekend. You'll have mates in your mind that you know do a bit of cocaine every now and on the weekend, yeah? And you don't necessarily think they have to stop it. You're not necessarily worried about the fact that they do it every now and then. You've got other mates, yeah, who you would think to yourself, I hope they don't do cocaine this weekend. Yeah? Because they got a different relationship with cocaine, right? So that's cocaine. Now let's take the biggest killer drug going on the planet. What's that?
You're going to say sugar.
It's sugar.
Right, yeah.
So what I find fascinating is why we talk about sugar different to any other drug. It comes back to what I'm saying. The thing with cocaine, we're all very clear. Yeah, there's a couple of people I know, everybody would know, you'd be highly concerned if I told you I'd done cocaine this weekend. Yeah? But sugar is not as catastrophic in one night, but that for me is the only difference.
But there's also like the social elements, right? In terms of we're looking at the health implication of taking cocaine versus taking sugar, but obviously you've got the whole drug trafficking argument, all these sorts of things, which is why I think it's obviously far less acceptable for someone to, as in terms of the public perception.
Public perception, of course, yeah, but taking that away for a minute,
So it's just health.
even alcohol's the same, yeah.
Yeah,
So cocaine,
exactly.
so then you take away the illegality of it, right? You'd be worried if I had a drink the weekend, right? And you wouldn't, even if you reflect on what you've just said, you know, you might down the road, Josh, have a couple of drinks here and there, but you'll know how to get back on the horse. And it's like, no, because I don't know if I'll get back on the horse if I drink again. That's why I'm never going to drink again. And so take health away from it and just talk purely about a kind of mental and emotional way. I think everybody has to look at their own relationship with stuff and question and ask, and weigh up the benefits and the risk of carrying on that relationship in some way.
Yeah.
And I genuinely do feel like, and by the way, I'm not ready to say I'm never going to have refined sugar again in my life, right? I'm not ready to say that. But I don't think I'd be too far from the truth if I did make that commitment to myself. Because again, I've got to tell you, man, where I am with it, when I get in the dark with it, it ain't too different, man. It ain't too different from where I'm at with drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you do, by the way, when you do look at it as the drug that it is, and then you look at the millions and billions these companies spend to get the sweet spot amount of it in every bit of food that we have so that we're hooked on it, is mental, really. And the way that we market it to kids should be, until they're at least 5 or 6, kids should be nowhere near chocolate and sweets.
You're a parent of 6 children. How do you take this into the home?
So we didn't allow, obviously I raised my first 4 children quite differently, unfortunately, yeah. But my 2 children that me and my wife have got, we didn't allow them to have sweets or chocolate for 3 years. None at all.
Yeah.
So we, all of their food that they were fed when it was mushed up was never shop bought stuff. It was always vegetables mushed together, and we kept them away from refined sugar, because when their brain was developing at its fastest rate, I did not want to give them a drug.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to give a shout out to my wife for that.
Yeah.
'Cause I've just said that on a bit of a moral high ground, and I fucking wouldn't have done it if it was just me. It was my wife that did that.
Yeah. Because it's effort, and I've seen my wife
100%.
go through that, and it's effort. It really
effort.
is.
Yeah, man.
That's one of the biggest things I think, unfortunately, about healthy eating is one of the harsh realities is the easiest way to do it would be to predominantly eat unprocessed foods, because I don't like, this might be a bit far-fetched, but I don't trust what's in packaged goods that it won't have lots of shit in it. You look at lots of labels in the supermarkets and it's just like half the stuff you don't understand, half it's like, does that need to be in there? So the alternative is, in some respects, is, well, just make everything from scratch. But that takes loads of time, especially if you've got your parent with kids. So it's this whole thing of like trusting what you buy from a supermarket versus everything has to be like made from scratch. And unless you've got the time, it's like, how do you get those good sources that you can trust?
You go back, 50 years when one of the parents was traditionally at home, they would potentially be afforded more time to cook and prepare meals from scratch,
Yeah.
And also when you look at cancer rates and things like that, they kind of aligned with the introduction of the change in our food environment. And like our food environment is so different than it was 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's
70. Yeah.
It's driven in one of the books I read recently, like this sweet spot that they get enough sugar and salt and everything in the food. They do tests to test that when you finished eating the thing, it makes you want more of it.
Right.
Because they're literally trying to hook you.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I might be cynical, yeah, but it's not a coincidence for me. I think the sort of overly capitalist society that we live in is driven by that. Have you ever seen any of the things sometimes see it on social media where somebody posts like a generic picture of everybody at the beach in like the 60s and the 70s?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nobody there overweight. Now, I'm not fat shaming anybody that's overweight. I'm struggling with my weight myself, right? It's something that I do. But my point is, if you go in a supermarket now, like you've just said, it's very difficult to buy anything that's not full of, I'm going to keep calling drugs, because that is drugs.
To make it shelf stable, to be able to like keep it on the shelves, they've got to put stuff in it. Like some of the bread and stuff on there that's like, you make something like bread at home yourself and it goes off in a few days and it's rock hard.
Yeah.
You buy a loaf of bread from the supermarket, it will stay on your shelf for like a good week, or if not 2 weeks, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, what's in that means it's not going off? Like they just put stuff in it. I'm not saying that we all need to be this super like paleo, don't eat any processed stuff, but it just makes, I think, modern eating very complicated.
Well, it's hard to be that. Like in an ideal world, we would be that, what you're just saying, right? We'd all just eat, but like the way that we live nowadays, where we don't have that sort of family unit that we once did, that's gone. The way that like these kids' food is in a jar are like marketed, right? If you didn't know any different, which most of us don't, right? You'd think it's more healthy to give them one of these because they say we've banged loads of vitamins A, B,
Yeah,
C,
yeah,
D, and E and F in there, right? When it's got that in it, but it's full of all the processed stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? So like, we don't live in a world anymore that I don't know, like is like breeds that kind of healthy way of living and breeds a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
Do it? Do you know what I mean?
Our environment is it's so anti-health, you know, from like making it easier for us to just move, and i.e. not walk and move ourselves. So in terms of all the transport, all the escalators, all of this sort of stuff, the fact that we're sitting on chairs now rather than sort of sitting on the floor, and we're using more of our core muscles and being more mobile, like that in itself, our food environments at work, all of these things make it harder and harder and harder for us to stay healthy. And it's like, what are our choices then? What are our choices? We have to try and control our environment a little bit more and take it upon ourselves to do what we can, I think, to, like you're saying, like you brought in some boundaries around the food at home with your kids in the first 3 years. Like, what else can we do around that? I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago with Kelly Starrett, who's this kind of mobility expert, right? And he wrote an amazing book called Supple Leopard. Yeah, Supple Leopard. Great title. But they were talking about how, like in Japan, people sit on the floor, and that's a normal thing. Like you go into a room, a social room, and they'll have these little sort of inch thick mats that are stacked in the corner, and they'll have tables kind of this height. You grab a mat, sit down, you know, you're changing position, you're moving around, and you know, you go to the toilet squatting, all of these things, which is just, you know, part of how humans are supposed to move and be. And you kind of start to suddenly become, you know, I was listening to this, I was suddenly aware of, you know, we've talked about this stuff a lot about sitting, and we're going into workplaces, and we do a lot of consulting on that sort of stuff. But even us in that position as consultants, like I was very conscious of like, I'm not really living this as much as I could be at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I'm not living this. Like I feel even like very subtle things, but if we're watching TV at night, we've got the sofa, and then in front of that, we've got the mat, which is like a kid's mat where it's like, you know, a cushioned kind of thicker yoga mat, about double the size. When I sit on that, watching the TV, moving around and stretching, I feel better at the end of the episode than if I'm on the sofa like this watching the TV.
But like if you think of like how drawn we are to the path of least resistance, as we say,
exactly.
Like your mind and your body wants the easiest path.
So easy.
And the easiest path is processed food. It's eating sugar so you don't have to sit with how you feel. It's all of those things. And think of the ways that we trick and deceive ourselves to take that easier route all of the time, when actually, if you want to live a better life, and I know this to be true, despite all, like I do all the deeper healing stuff and all of that, and you've got all these things out there at the moment, from ice baths, taping your mouth shut, and all of these things are great, but don't jump straight to them if you're not doing the basic things.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving during the day, putting healthy things in your body. How many people now, but like I'm one of them, if I'm not careful, get straight up in the morning, fucks their nervous system up in the first second by going on social media and looking at a load of stuff before they've even breathed properly. And I'm just talking about taking some normal deep breaths in the morning, then go and eat something shit. So your vagus nerve that attaches your tummy to your mind, like you're off to a loser. You're off to a loser. Do you know what I mean? And like, but that path of least resistance is, we're so overly tapped into that now in the world that we live in, with all the shit food and like, and sitting down and sitting at a desk and all of that. Like, I always, when I'm really struggling internally, I sometimes get caught up in thinking, what's driving this? What emotion is it? And that work is there to be done. But the first thing that you should do, and this is why it's been great working with you, is go, where am I at now? Well, how do I get a fucking grip of the basics of life? Let me start eating well. Let me start making sure I'm moving properly each day. I'm doing the stretching thing every day. Let me get those things in check, get my mind and my body in sync and feeling in a good place, and then let me do some of the deeper work. Do you know what I mean? But the world is not set up for that life anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's half of the problem.
It used to, like, life back even 50 years ago, but hundreds of years ago, was hard work, like on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And in many ways, it's amazing that life can be quite easy now. You can sit on your nice, comfortable sofa. You've got your lovely bed to lie on. But, and this isn't to sound too like up on my pedestal, but sometimes you've got to realize that actually to be fit and healthy initially is going to be hard work. Like you've got to, I think 10,000 steps is as a minimum. It should be more like 15 to 20,000 if you want to be like making some change. It's not sitting on your arse all day, which I have been very guilty of the last few years, especially due to the pandemic. And to switch stuff up, like initially it's going to be quite uncomfortable. Like you've got to make some changes if that's what you want to do. A realization that actually life has become very easy for us to change that. And if you want to lose some weight or just be healthier in your mind and body, you've got to get a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you know what you're pointing to at the beginning is, I think, another problem, a societal problem that we've got, right? Which is that by saying, look, if you want to make changes in your life, you need to do some hard shit that's uncomfortable and doesn't feel very good at the beginning and it's going to be hard. Some people will point to you and go, well, that's not very compassionate because not everybody can do that. And it's like, no, I understand. There's 1,000,001 different reasons and life is complex and messy and not everybody's in the position to get up tomorrow and make some changes in their life. And I know myself, when I get in that rut where I was, which is like last week where I was with the food, it was me that had to go in the end. I had to reach out and get some help and support. And I turned to you and it's like, and I had to do that. And I have to do that. And then I had to like go through those first 3 days where all I wanted was sugar and processed food. That was all I could think about for the first 3 days. I had to do that. And that ain't easy. And like, and something that society seems to find hard at the moment is to talk about the importance of that stuff without people calling you out and saying that you're not being compassionate and you're not having empathy for people, which is not the case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So in a long-winded way, it's been absolutely amazing. No, but honestly, that just quickly, the accountability piece that I've got through working with you, and you've been, even though I'm your close mate and all that, I've felt like you've been very non-judgmental, very gentle with me, and it hasn't, what wouldn't have worked with me is you going, right, you're going to do this. I want you to smash it in the gym, measure your heart rate, come up, da-da-da. You went, look, there's some workouts. Go and do them. See how you get on. Just show me what you're eating. You didn't actually give me any direction.
No.
You said first week, just take a picture of everything that you're eating. Show me what you're eating. I've got some things that we could do. And there was a bit of me that was like,
you wanting to go, you want the plan
no,
now.
fucking tell me what I need to eat.
Yeah.
And you were like, and then I was like, all right, okay. But there were moments when we went out for dinner, grabbed some lunch, and I had a salad, and I took the picture of this salad thing and sent it to you. And then my daughter, who's 6, refuses to have a kid's meal, so I always have to buy her an adult's pizza, and she only ever eats half of it. And then I was like, she finished it, and there was half left, and I was like, getting the phone out, ready to take a picture of it. And then I thought, I ain't sending him a picture of half a fucking pepperoni pizza after I've just sent him a picture of a salad. So I didn't eat it. Yeah. But that accountability stuff was like really useful. Do you know what I mean? And it's a little bit of a fork in the road to stop it.
Has your coaching style changed over the years with people, or was it kind of always been that style?
I'd say
Without
it's
giving
still
away too much what's coming next.
Yeah, I'd say it's still rooted in, like I've always, I'll tell you where this sort of came from. When I first took an interest in fitness, which was when I was about sort of 15, 16 years old, I remember my sister wanting to started to do a bit of training as well. And so I saw this as an opportunity to like put her through the hardest workout ever. And what would happen, this happened 2 or 3 times, whereby she would build up the courage to like be like, Rob, okay, yeah, let's do a session. And I would be like, okay, I need to give her the hardest workout ever. She needs to crawl, out the gym sort of thing. And obviously it didn't give her any kind of positive experience about exercise at all. And so I learned that very, very, very important lesson early on in my sort of fitness life, whereas you need to find out where the client is now. What did they do last week? If they did nothing last week and this week they do 20 squats, that's a win. Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but to get them to build momentum gradually. And the key underpinning idea behind my coaching now is sort of long-term thinking. So it's, let's break the cycle of trying to do everything now really quickly, and because it probably has never worked for you so far, because here you're talking to me again, like I'm talking in general here with people. So let's approach it slightly differently. So like with my group at the moment, the first month, right, was all about, can we just get moving again? Just tick off these 2 or 3 workouts a week. And they've all managed to do it, and they've all gained momentum, and they're all like chomping at the bit, like, what's next, Rob? Okay, so now we're looking into nutrition. We didn't even look at nutrition in the first month, because now now they've got this higher level of sort of self-esteem, because they've ticked everything off. Whereas if I threw everything at them early on, chances are they're not going to hit everything, and then they're going to have the same stories about themselves that, I don't stick to things, I can't do things properly. So it's a bit of rewiring, basically. Yeah.
I like that.
And also, I'm just a massive advocate of just like the fundamental human movement patterns. Like, can we work towards a press up? Can we work towards a pull up? Like, have you got a low squat? Like, these things, a really interesting word I came across relatively recently is the idea of health span. So we know lifespan, how long we're going to live. Health span, how long in our lives are we healthy? And that can actually enjoy life. So it's all well and good being like, having all of these drips in you and being kept alive for another 20 years. You've technically got a longer lifespan, but it's not health. You're not enjoying your life, right? So all of these like markers, like my parents at the beginning of their 60s, I'm really aware at the moment of like, this is a big decade for them, because you can come out the back of your 60s fitter than you were going in. Or you can come out the back of your 60s feeling a lot fucking older. And so what can they do, keeping themselves moving? Can you hit some low squats? Can you do a plank? Can you hang from a bar for 20 seconds? These sorts of things. Can you carry a third of your body weight in each of your hands for 30 seconds? Like, these are some really simple things, but if you tick them off and work out, yes, I can do it, no, I can't do it, you have something to work towards. Can I touch my toes? Can I get off the floor without using my hands? Like, really simple stuff. And just finally on this, like, I'm fortunate enough to have 2 grannies left alive. One of them keeps herself really busy doing golf, Pilates, ballet, they're both in their 80s, and she's moving around, doing whatever she wants. And the other one's in a care home. She didn't move much, smoked, drank. And so I've seen the path and there's only one that I want to take. So yeah.
With the health span stuff, is there like health markers, or how do they estimate that? Do they give you like a year?
Well, it's in terms of testing it, like, it's hard to know, but you can tell with like great confidence that if someone can say hang from a bar for 20 seconds, that they've got pretty good strength, right? Or if someone could get into a low squat and stand back up again, even in their 70s or 80s, they've got good mobility. They're going to be way less likely to fall and hurt themselves. All of these things which old people have to start worrying about.
That's one of the things, isn't it? Is usually an innocuous fall, especially as you get older, that then can trigger kind of poor health.
Oh, for sure. Like my wife's, it's like the most bizarre things happen, right? So my wife's granddad, his wife was ill with cancer, and she had to have a frame around the toilet. And when he used to go for a wee in the night, his shins used to rub against the frame, and he had a little abrasion on his leg, which eventually became infected and became into this massive sore, open wound.
Wow.
He ended up dying from various infections and stuff like that, and so it can be the smallest little thing, right? That can happen when you're old. So all these things we put into our habits, into our daily lives now, pay dividends later on. That's 20 more years of being healthy.
But that's really important what you do, and I've certainly learned it even more working with you in the last week. I get a bit turned off by a lot of personal trainers that I see online that talk very much like I'm a machine, and if you just do X, Y, and Z, then you'll get fit. None of that resonates with me. Yeah, what you're tapping into and what you're talking about is the human element of it. I felt like you are working with my whole self, like all of me, trying to understand who I am as a human and what my needs are, rather than just being a personal trainer who comes to me like I'm a machine that just needs tuning up. Because it ain't that. Do you know what I mean? Especially not with me. I'm fucking as complex as they come. But do you know what I mean? But that's what you're doing, and I don't see, or certainly can't from looking afar online anyway. It's what turns me off ever working with a personal trainer, if I'm honest with you, is that it all feels very robotic to me when I look
Part
online.
of it is just because I'm interested in people, so I just want to find out about all these other areas.
Yeah, man. You should market yourself as more than just a personal trainer. It's more of like I know it's a bit of a shit term, but you're more of like a life coach.
Yeah, well, I've got that. I've got a little life coach qualification. I'm doing a coaching course at the moment in neuroscience, which is so interesting.
Yeah, man.
I want to talk about one more thing before this podcast closes out, about Marky last week.
Yes.
So last week there was one of our friends and someone that we work with called Kirsty organised this fantastic conference up in Stoke-on-Trent, which is where she's from, called Confidence Live. And there's some amazing speakers that were there. And she asked Mark to do a talk. And I just got to say, like, it was fucking awesome. Like, it was really, really good. Like,
Surprised at that? You sound surprised, Rob.
no, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, and I think I said this to you already. So Mark didn't run it by me. And in my head, I was like, he should run it by me. That's what I thought. And it's a bit egotistical, but I was like, he should run it by me. And also, he didn't get a chance to run it by Kirsty. And so I was kind of just like...
He ran it by me.
that one. But I was kind
You know
of
what
just,
that was though?
What?
That was insecurity of being
Really?
like, judged
I
by
thought
anyone. I was like, also, I was also like, if I share this with Rob on the day, he'd be like, you should change
No,
that,
no, I knew.
that
I knew-
and that.
I
And at
knew.
last minute, I'd be like, oh, I should change it all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that, but you're right to think that, because I've done that before. Like before we've gone into pitches and stuff like that, we're like half an hour before we're going to like, we should just reorder the whole thing right now. And Mark's like,
Yeah.
but anyway, so just from my perspective, I'm kind of at the back, and there's 600 people there, massive fucking room, right? Light show, big screen. They call Mark on stage, and
Cat backwards, katana.
but you open with obviously talking about the three big things that you went through, which was your father's death, the ending of a long-term relationship, and also your stepfather's death. I wanted to ask you, how did it feel to talk about those things to such a large group? Because I don't think you've ever talked about those things in that sort of setting, let alone of that size.
Not really. So the topic of the talk was making mental health more accessible for everyone, but especially men, which I just felt was the most authentic thing I could talk about. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Actually, Kirsty, who organised it, I was like, is anyone like really going to care about my story? Like, I'm in the grand scheme of things, like with all self-awareness, like I don't have a big name. I don't have a big social media following. I was like, is anyone going to care about the things I went through in the last few years? But she was like, actually, it's like real life experiences. And so I thought to add some authenticity, I needed to show some vulnerability. I talked about vulnerability in the right way to kind of be vulnerable. And I thought, well, otherwise you're just up there kind of giving this high level advice, which is often given out, and there's no like personal experiences to it. Just like almost like you're just reading out of a textbook and be like, you should do this for your mental health, this for your mental health, this for your mental health. And just to kind of give some real life experiences to it. I went through some shit. I know a lot of other people do, but this is what happened to me, and this is how I kind of helped myself go through it. And coincidentally, we've also helped some people on Uncommon Man with similar stuff. But I just felt like opening with that. It didn't feel like super scary, because I don't know why. It just doesn't really bother me too much to like talk about it now in retrospect. Just like that stuff happened. I also think a lot of shit happens to other people that's probably far worse. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was called Confidence Live. Ironically, I wasn't feeling that confident going on stage, but especially with like public speaking, Kirsty, who organised it, had spoken to me about it in the past, and also I'd read a lot online about it, of when it comes to public speaking, this idea of like kind of having these like milestone topics in your head, but then almost like ad-libbing in between the two. I just find it more of a natural way to talk rather than in the past I've tried to be like very scripted and be like, okay, no, that line, that line, that line. And sometimes actually pausing to like think about what you're going to say rather than just being like off auto cue the whole time. So I actually really enjoyed it. I did share with Josh afterwards that I was sweating like a mother.
Well, you went for the shirt and a patterned shirt, so even if you did get sweats, it
Yeah.
covered
Ah,
up.
That's
clever.
very tactical.
But it was very eloquent. It was very well delivered. And what was
Sounds
quite
good,
cool,
man.
What was quite cool was Caitlin Moran, who's a sort of a very famous sort of author journalist. She, in her chat at the end, she said, and one of the speakers was talking about leaving space for people to speak, and she kind of embellished on that in herself. And then she also pulled out another thing from Mark's topic, which was obviously about the stuff that we're doing at Uncommon Man. And she said something like, she had said a great line, which was something like, the irony of feminism would be is if after sorting ourselves out, we then have to sort the men out.
Yeah.
She was saying she thinks the next big thing is for
yeah.
men to do their work, which obviously...
I'm gutted I didn't get to see it, man.
It was
I
good.
think my invite must. I'll check the junk folder afterwards. I didn't see it.
Too big a name.
because you
Unfortunately.
weren't invited to speak, you're like, fuck that.
Yeah,
Fuck that.
it came through. I thought audience member, delete.
But that was good. Good.
Yeah, no, it's very good, and it was nice to get Uncommon Man out there to a predominantly female audience, listening and hearing about it.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, there was a picture of us on, when we're doing our big scream, and people, when Mark was saying we do this big, people would be like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool.
But there was talk of either like a men's, because this event was probably 70 to 80% women there, I would say, but like whether we ran something similar, but we're like,
Yeah, man.
And then
We
also-
were saying we should.
quite a few, obviously either parents or like people that had younger boys and men in their life to say something like this for like teenagers
Yeah.
that have some positive male role models rather than the likes of Andrew Tate, etc. I don't know quite what the topics would be there, but it'd be quite an interesting kind of area. But once again, it was Uncommon Man that was having lots of questions around what do you do at Uncommon Man. Let's talk about that. It's like people are interested.
When's Men's Day? International Men's Day. It's November, isn't it?
Yeah, November.
Maybe
Yeah.
we do something then.
Give us enough
If
time.
we did it in that week as well, do you know what I mean? You'd get a lot of.
Like
Good
it.
to get on that, mate.
Yeah, I'll sort all of that out.
Yeah,
shall I?
you sort that out.
Classic.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
and Mark will be speakers because we're good at that.
I'll be organizer, videographer. Yeah.
No, we'll get Landray in for that.
Oh yeah, true. Right. Nice
minutes
one,
left.
lads. Any closing words or closing thoughts, Josh? Or are we good to go?
Are we going for some food now?
Yeah, I think we should go for some.
Yeah, all right. I'll have a
Right.
pudding.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
I've got a packed lunch with me. It's fun. Yeah, very good, lads. I wasn't sure where we were going to go with this episode, but we, as always, managed to fill the time and talk some good stuff.
Thank you.
Nice one.